I've watched all of Thundercats and it's kind of up. Walter Wolf, a completely unknown writer, realizes his young daughter's concept of a comic book on the Thundercats, alien cat humanoids who travel through space and fight evil spirits. The author didn't stop there and let the 1985 TV series Thundercats come out. The cartoon itself received as much as 4 seasons, 130 episodes. Absolutely every morning of the week, except weekends little American schoolchildren faced the journey Lion-O. However, the series outdated itself in the 90s, when there were new technologies and methods of approach animation. It did not pass the test of time, so the authors announced a reboot. Thundercats 2011 seemed like a promising idea, but the crisis of 2009 affected production. Because of the fall of the dollar, the usual $350,000 turned into $550,000. The number of episodes was reduced, the quality of the script turned into a typical side quest, find, beat, bring, and close-up scenes became the lion's share of the series, literally. But why was the series a failure? How is it different from its last century ancestor, and where did the second season go? Let's rewind time back about 1,000 years. Mum-Ra is a servant of the ancient spirits of evil. While in the original 1980s series, the ancient spirits of evil were represented by statues of crocodile, bull, vulture, and boar. In the reboot, they are represented by statues of lizard, jackal, monkey, and vulture, mirroring the mutants from the original series, also being the source of our villain's power. Traveling in his spaceship, he searches for the last of the Power Stones, the War Stone. The artifacts are an instrument of absolute power, giving the wielder limitless strength and power over everything. This is exactly what the ancient spirits wanted, but in order for the stones to work properly, another element was required, the sword Plundar. The only way to get it was to destroy an entire galaxy of dozens of planets inhabited by intelligent beings. Naturally, Mum-Ra didn't care about that and ordered Leo to destroy the galaxy and get the so-called blood of the star. By the way, a little clarification. Leo is the ancestor of all Thunderbirds in general. We also see Panther and Tigers, who are the ancestors of the feline nations in the present tense. Ancient spirits possessed by the blacksmith forged a gauntlet and a sword. Mum-Ra inserted 3 stones and essentially grew his powers to the limit. However, he will never find the last stone. Leo rebels against him and, together with Panther, persuades the blacksmith to forge another weapon from the remnants of the star, the Sword of the Banner. To prepare, they conspire with slaves, lizards, and jackals. Tygoose travels to the planet to get the last stone for his master, but is confronted with Leo's treachery and gives up the stone. The hero arms himself with a stylish lion suit and defeats Mum-Ra in a fair fight. It turns out that the villain has already prepared an escape pod and promised to return. He could not get out of the capsule at once, from which he had to be imprisoned in it for about 1,000 years. After the crash, it was dangerous to give all the stones to only one race of creatures, and then 4 stones were divided among the animals. And as the vulture, whose people took the stone of technology, said, "So that the strong would grow stronger, and the weak, you yourselves know what became of them." Leo ascended to the throne and his cat kingdom began to flourish. However, not all the felines turned out well. Tygoose, the leader of the Tiger Clan, was loyal to Mum-Ra, so absolutely all the cat clans turned their backs on him. He founded a village in a snowy biome and told tales that they are protected by ancient spirits, but apparently he forgot to tell that they are quite evil and want to enslave and destroy everyone. After many generations, we get to the present day, where the clan of cats finally nailed between relations with other races and simply took fertile land from others. Literally not so long ago, they were all under the usurper's rule, and now he has been replaced by a friend in the person of Leo, who did everything to make sure that it was his family and friends who lived well, while he left the other humanoids to survive in the Dead Lands. The action takes place on the planet Tenda. The power of the Lion Kingdom is in the hands of Claudus, Lord of the Thundercats. Not the best example of a healthy ruler, in whose hands was the power of the Sword of the Banner. He himself was a dictator, robbed, attacked, took away fertile lands, riddled different peoples, and the lizards so generally enrolled in the thieves and allowed them to publicly mock and stone them. All this was not without the help of friends, Jaga, Panthro, Grun, friends and comrades who also helped make Thundera a prosperous state. Though it was more like a town with a small plot of land, Claudus married Leona, there was still no way the successor was spun up, so the gods gave the lions a gift. A tiger cub. And to be honest, the tiger clan led by Javan decided to ask for help not from their fellow tigers, but from evil spirits. They asked the chief's son to come to the Lonely Mountain and send his son's soul to us. Javan could not do it and just sent him on a balloon to travel around the world. This is how he came to the family of the lions, where he gained the status and love of his foster mother. However, Leona got pregnant and Layano was born. Unfortunately, the queen died during childbirth, and Batek only said to Tigra, "You will understand when you grow up." On that day, Tigra lost his mother and his crown. He will often bully his younger brother. He will leave him in the well through his own fault. However, will run to his father, immediately ask for forgiveness, and help to save his brother. The true hero is very multifaceted, literally driven by the injustice of life. He does the right thing. Chitara, being an orphan, wanted to become a cleric. However, Jaga quickly kicked her out for being impatient. Naturally, this was a test for her, prepared already by her mentor Jaga, but Tigra's help was weighty. He gave her a flower which in the future will play an important role in her relationship with her brother and Chitara. He will suck up to his father and create a negative view of you, the average viewer. To the people, he is the future replacement for Cladis, and they see him rather than the young lion on the throne. Mumra is a servant of the ancient spirits of evil. While in the original 1980s series, the ancient spirits of evil were represented by statues of crocodile, bull, vulture, and boar. In the reboot, they are represented by statues of lizard, jackal, monkey, and vulture, mirroring the mutants from the original series, also being the source of our villain's power. Traveling in his spaceship, he searches for the last of the Power Stones, the War Stone. The artifacts are an instrument of absolute power, giving the wielder limitless strength and power over everything. This is exactly what the ancient spirits wanted, but in order for the stones to work properly, another element was required, the sword Plundar. The only way to get it was to destroy an entire galaxy of dozens of planets inhabited by intelligent beings. Naturally, Mumra didn't care about that and ordered Leo to destroy the galaxy and get the so-called blood of the star. By the way, a little clarification. Leo is the ancestor of all Thunderbirds in general. We also see Panther and Tigers, who are the ancestors of the feline nations in the present tense. But how did the plot begin in the 1985 prequel? Thundera wasn't a state, it was an entire planet. How it exploded was not explained to us, but they told us how Jaga saved the children on the ship and went to find a new place to live. He showed him the sword and then boom, the ship crashes. The heroes are rescued on pods, and maybe the plot would have been less interesting if little Lino hadn't grown up right in the pod. So on the third Earth, he takes on the burden of leadership as a small child and goes off to fight mutants. That's if anything the name of the other races. Apparently the writers clearly had issues with xenophobia. Our lion, on the other hand, was an ordinary teenager who fought for his justice in the city and defended the poor people, oppressed essentially by his own father. So he meets Chitara, a heroine who is designed to destroy the relationship of two brothers. He also has a fascination with technology, which later contributes to saving his father in part. Claudius, on the other hand, thinks that the son is not ready to rule and that the adopted son is much cooler. Tigra was not the only such negative character. Grun is a loyal fellow soldier who betrayed his king. He originally had ambitions just like Claudius. In episode 13, we are told how he lost his fang in a cave with spiders just to survive. It's presented in such a way that Grun is willing to bring any price in exchange for victory. In the desert, he was beckoned by the voice of Mumra, and the latter offered him a deal in exchange for loyalty and help. Grun, along with the lizard army, stormed the castle and trapped him with his seemingly dead friend Panthro. Claudius fell for it and paid with his life. All in all, an unsurprising end for a usurper, and he differed from Mumra only in that he was a foolish and incompetent leader. His ancestor Leo knew the power of technology, but he simply couldn't do what Mumra did. Claudius considered technology a childish and frivolous toy. Preferring brute force and masculinity, it played a cruel joke when he saw tanks and his men fighting back with spears. After losing Jaga, he sets out to find the Book of Vengeance, an artifact that will tell him how to defeat Mumra. Along the way, however, questions arise about who will be the leader of the team. Tigra, being the epitome of hubris and a tabletop strategist, doesn't take the risks as the situation at sea demanded, but also because of her own pride doesn't want to back down when they're pushed by the lizards. Although Panthro does not immediately recognize young Lino as king, he soon becomes convinced of his leadership. The Thundercats make their way to a fuel mine captured by Grun, where Panthro confronts his former friend. In the fight, Lino saves Panthro from a robot driller, earning his respect. Panthro recalls how Grun succumbed to greed by freeing Mumra, and now finally sides with Lionel, having sworn an oath of loyalty. The team finds a hidden entrance to the ancient Tower of Omens, where the Book of Omens is hidden. Overcoming traps, the Thundercats retrieve the Book of Omens, though the price of this victory is the death of Jag, who sacrificed himself in battle with the arriving Mumra. The pages of the book seem blank at first, but soon Lion-O, with the help of Jaga's spirit, plunges into its depths and sees events of the distant past. He relives the memories of an ancestor named Leo, who rebelled against the tyranny of Mumra aboard a space ark. From the visions, Lion-O learns of 4 powerful stones that once belonged to Mam-Ra, and realizes that he already has one of them, the Eye of Tandera, while the others are scattered across the earth. The new Lord of the Thundercats realizes his mission: to find the 3 missing stones and unite the disparate peoples of Third Earth against Mam-Ra. If you remember, there was a very interesting character, Scaramucci, in Samurai Jack. Well, here too there is a character that catches the eye and evokes brutality. It's the duelist. Actually an important part. As a stage of the battle with himself, Lion-O essentially loses to the great swordsman in the battle without a chance and gives up his blade. Well, and then gathers his thoughts to come to terms with the defeat and defeats the villain, although he cannot be called such. He is more of a tool to achieve spiritual balance of the hero than a typical bully from the other side of the board. The hero also learns important lessons, specifically peace and tranquility. Elephants, being intelligent creatures, and as we know, the elephant has the best memory in the world, here because of the teaching or for the sake of a joke, the scriptwriters gave them the memory of a fish. From what they quickly forget about what they said a couple of seconds ago, which greatly annoys the lion team. Ancient sage elephants help a Lion-O to realize the gift of seeing beyond, and it helps him to find the stone, but he fails to get it. It just disappeared from the lodge. He also enlists not only the support of the elephants, but also the help of small robots who will quickly repair his ship for a modest amount of help. It was also nice to see a reference to the Avatar, or rather the Forest Spirit series. School of Paper Mages, figging trees for the sake of origami, which greatly stresses the nature. Naturally, the protector of the forest, Viragor, couldn't let it go. Lion-O quickly realizes that he was a little bit deceived and takes the side of the forest protector, and together with Viragora kicks out the paper magicians. Chitara, by the way, receives a staff endowed with magic, as the previous one broke in the battle. The heroes head back to the elephants to open a portal to the astral world, but things are more complicated. Grun has arrived on the scene and he promises to carve up the village if the elephants don't tell him where the stone is. Annette warns Lion-O that Tigra will betray him at the end of the day. Of course, the hero doesn't believe this, but Tigra tries his best to show that he wants power. He remembers the past, gets an astral version of the sword, and tries to beat up his brother. Mumra shows up at this time, gets into his pumped up form. Good thing the astral world allows him to do so, and loses what is essentially a spiritual battle between the two brothers. Panthro loses his hands as he sends Grun into the astral world. Linneo rebukes the elephant for his mistake, for it is evening and the betrayal has not happened. But not so, he sees a scene of Chitara hugging Tegra, so to speak, and telling him the words that she chooses him. Unable to take the crown, the sword, earn Claudius's place as first son, but able to win Chitara's love. Mamra frees Atticus and Kynar, two generals who will push Lion-O into the abyss. To return from what is essentially the afterlife, he will be tested to overcome fear, insecurity, and cunning. He will re-accept himself and his unrequited feelings. He has also lost his sword that will end up in the hands of Mumra. Tigra will try on the crown, and has already said goodbye to his brother without even trying to find the body or proof that his brother is dead. He's going to go save the sword because he's the king now and he needs to act rationally. Generally the right thing to do, but at the end he will realize that the crown is not worth his little brother's life. Nevertheless, Chitara will support Tigra in every way possible and even lower her weapon at one point, causing Lion-O to get hit in the head. She talks about having faith in the king, her comrade, but then is quick to drop her weapon if her boyfriend is in danger. Doesn't anyone want to put her to the test? She's not much of a trustworthy comrade. At the end of the episode, while already with a sword, Jaga's spirit praises the protagonist on behalf of the Soul Stone. I'm wondering if his spirit is going to keep appearing. Why doesn't his father's spirit ever appear, or his mother's? Apparently clerics have some sort of privilege. I've said before that Tigra is a negative character, or tries to be, but if you look back on his life, it's a living hell. Adopted son of a king, adopted mother died giving birth to his brother, who will take his throne by birthright and blood. Eternal ridicule for being different, A brother who tries to take away the woman you've known since childhood. It's Lion-O who takes what little he has from Tigra. And so in the series, he meets his real father, learns the truth, breaks the curse, and loses his father again for the second time. I don't think it needs to be said that the hero has a hard fate, but is there anyone worse? There is. Pumaira is a gladiator in the arena. Of course, Lajoa will want to save her, for which he will be sent to the cage for disobeying Dobo, Panthro's former comrade, who left him in the arena and fled to the kingdom of cats. When Tandera fell, Pumaira's family died, including the girl herself. Mamra resurrected her and turned her into his servant on a leash, and in the English localization he hints at their special relationship. I don't need to explain why he resurrected her. He must have liked her a lot. Along with the stones, the heroes also needed to find the sword Plandar, which was walled up in the stone mines of the rats. Once upon a time, the rats found the sword Plandar. They wanted to rule the power together with the cats. They started to reclaim the land just like the proud cats, but they were against it, and I will remind you that Claudius wanted power for the cats, so that they would take the #1 place under the sun. So Jaga is sent along with the sword of the banner to destroy the ruler of the rats and take the sword away. Now imagine what power Jaga has if he can cast spells on artifacts that Mumra can't remove. So he also creates entire mountains to hide the sword. The Dark Lord finds out about Lino finding the sword with his friends and sends an entire cyborg army to get it. How did he find out about it? Pumara. He is captured by Mumra for some unknown reason and also reminds Lino of his duty to Tander. Anyway, Mumra transforms into an immortal and takes the Plandar. This also explains why Pumaira in no way reacts to Lion's childish pouncing. Maybe she's trying not to get attached. Or maybe it's too much for her, because I'll remind you that Mamra is a pretty good jock in prime. Walter, the prefect of the city of Avista, welcomed our protagonist and told the story of how the stones were divided between the animals. Birds took the stone of technology. They knew that cats wanted to rule the earth, so they themselves began to rule the air. They don't want to go to war with Mamra because they believe he can't reach them. I mean, do they seriously think that the Dark Lord who ruled in space on a huge machine won't reach them? But that's okay. He's also decided to show them a rock, and all the defense he has is a magnetic field. That's the most careless ruler I've ever seen. Not only did he let unfamiliar cats into his house, but he showed them his treasure. Mamra naturally managed to get his hands on the stone, though not for long. It took on a stronger form than before, and Pumaira finally showed her fangs and very clearly established a position. She tried to kill Lion-O, but his friend saved him. Walter, the prefect of the city of Avista, welcomed our protagonist and told the story of how the stones were divided between the animals. Birds took the stone of technology. They knew that cats wanted to rule the earth, so they themselves began to rule the air. They don't want to go to war with Momra because they believe he can't reach them. I mean, do they seriously think that the Dark Lord who ruled in space on a huge machine won't reach them? But that's okay, he's also decided to show them a rock, and all the defense he has is a magnetic field. That's the most careless ruler I've ever seen. Not only did he let unfamiliar cats into his house, but he showed them his treasure. Mumra naturally managed to get his hands on the stone, though not for long. It took on a stronger form than before, and Pumaira finally showed her fangs and very clearly established a position. She tried to kill Lion-O, but his friend saved him. Using it, the kittens reached the allies they once helped, and were able to ward off Pumaira and Mumra. At this point, we are left with an open ending, never letting us know the end of the whole story. Pumaira's betrayal hits Lino, the boy in love with the cat. Perhaps there will be redemption, and if ever, the studio will take up the project again and make it, but why isn't there? It's simple, the series failed at the box office. It all happened in 2011, in the sunset of disc stores, when people started watching TV series and cartoons online. Services like Amazon Prime, Netflix already had their status. Thundercats came out too late because it was very difficult to meet them on Cartoon Networks, and the toys were selling poorly. In addition, the announced $350,000 turned into almost $600,000. Why the project and received similar backdrops, backgrounds, static jumping scenes, as well as fights where you're shown a pink lightning bolt on the half screen and terrible quality of drawing. The show has horribly few references, and the plot is like a concept. Specific episodes were taken from other shows and just slightly reworked, if you don't believe it. The series with the forest spirit, the duelist, and the arena. A lot is taken from Avatar, Samurai Jack, and the predecessor, which can't be considered anything bad. It may not have turned out the way the audience wanted it to. Tribute was paid, yes, completely, the plot of the beginning was changed, but the general concept with the villain Mum-Ra remained, added love lines, a slight circle of the hero archetype, spiced up the open ending, and left me personally without an entire furry series. For me, it was the beginning of the journey of a true furry lover. No, I don't dress up in dog or cat costumes, but I really love this kind of theme. Even though it turned out to be a box office failure in merchant toy sales, I will never consider this series a failure. The plot turned out to be anything but childish. Here you have usurpers and dictators all over the place. In the series, we are shown Claudius as a kind and strict ruler, but as he said, "You'll understand when you grow up," I realized that this is a disgusting character from all points of view. He turned his back on technology, saved his son, not his wife, in childbirth. He also left his adopted son to fend for himself, so that he would give his brother cause for concern more than once in the future. He usurped lands that other peoples needed, mocked the lizards, a huge xenophobe with a thirst for power. He couldn't see his friend's terrible ambition, and he paid the price. Again, it was all the fault of simple greed, hatred of other peoples, pride, and his own resentment. Simple human vices that wanted to show you and try to make you a little bit better, showing all the cruelty of such thinking. Be sure to put a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see how other legendary cartoons ended. We also have a Telegram channel where we discuss cartoons and funny comments. Well, I watched all the Thunderbirds and it's really fucked up.